Oh, so much running around. Good morning. Good morning. I'm going to take my quick notes here real quick. Good morning. Thanks for coming. I'm making some notes really quick so I don't forget to tell you all the things that I want to tell you. It's been a crazy 24 hours, let's just say. You were here yesterday, you kind of had the inside scoop that it was my birthday and it was nutty all day long. All right. Good morning. So how is everyone? I hope you had a good one. I had a great birthday. It was wonderful. Thanks for being a big part of that yesterday. It was really fun. I was totally surprised by everything that happened yesterday. I'm not really a surprise person, so... Oh, did I even put the mic on?
You do.
I did put the mic on. Yeah.
There you go. I missed it too.
Okay, here we go.
Also, immediately they're asking for the tiara.
Oh, well, I can show you the one that he made. Yeah, will you go grab that one so I can put my mic on? On the bedside table.
Got it.
See, I can't tell you guys anything. You just remember it all. So now I've got the microphone on. That should help a little bit. The tiara never showed up yesterday. We waited till UPS until about 10 o'clock last night, and then I got an email that they weren't here yet. So we're still waiting on the tiara. So he made me one yesterday out of pipe cleaners. See if I can do this.
Oh yeah.
Is it good?
Yes.
Okay, I'll put my little ponytails over it like we did yesterday. I wore it all day. He made it for me around lunchtime, and I wore it for the rest of the day until bed, which is why it was next to the bed. Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Rotate it just a little bit.
This way?
Other way, there. A little more, right there. Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you, Minky.
So I do have a tiara. I'll have a nicer one when they deliver it, with a real one. But this one is pretty great, and I'm pretty happy with it. So anyway, yesterday was a lot of fun. I had a really great time yesterday. So I don't know what's happening on the other side of the camera, but Hawk's having a really good time over there. So thanks for being here. It was really great. We're going to finish up the thing. So hi, welcome to Sew Together Tuesday. I'm Teresa Coates. I'm the National Educator for Shannon Fabrics, and we are doing part 2 of our patchwork quilt. So we did the Tuscan Cuddle Quilt yesterday. We did all the blocks. We're going to redo a little bit of that. I'm going to talk about a little bit more of that in case you were here. I did finally get the pattern done this morning because that's the way it is. Oh, this is the edited version, the one with the pencil marks on it. But we have this available, and it should be on the website soon or already. I'm not sure. I sent it to Michael this morning. Okay, so you can see, drafted it up real quick, wrote out the instructions for how I did it with a little bit more pictures, and then there's also a layout page. So really my big thing with the layout page was to help with the nap so that you can figure out exactly where things are going and which color you want to go where. So if you had, say, I think we said you need to have 24 10-inch squares, okay, in coordinating prints. So we don't tell you how many you could do, but if you did 12 different prints, you would want to sort of put them around. What I spent a lot of time on was trying to arrange the pieces and figuring out like what went where. So this gives you the opportunity to try that out before you cut the pieces to make sure that you're getting the nap going in the right way for all of your pieces, okay? I hope that makes sense. So we got this finished for you guys. And then yesterday, we did the 2 variations on the square. Okay, if I can find the right. So many pieces here. So we did the 2 variations. The one that I did with the pellon on the back. Okay, so this one has the pellon. The SF101 is which kind of interfacing this is. Like I said, you could probably use a different fusible interfacing. This is just the one that I prefer and use it for most things that I'm using interfacing for. I do have some sew-in that I like as well, but this you want fusible to give it the stability that you don't have with the knit. So this is the one that we did without the pellon, okay? They just work a little bit differently. One isn't necessarily better than the other one. They're just different beasts. I preferred the pellon just because it made it easier to sew, and it gave it a little bit of stability, which I really like. As a patchworker at heart, that sort of being able to get those precision piecing is kind of important to me. So this helped me do that. But like I said, totally, you can do your own thing. Okay. So that's what we did yesterday. We pieced those together. I'll reiterate that the important thing was making sure that your nap is going in the same direction for all the pieces. When we do the one today, I'll show you, I cut them out and then I rearranged them. Just arrange them, which definitely messed me up. So my nap is going in all the directions, which is why I'll make a new one when we do a pattern for it, or the real pattern for it. So make sure that your nap is going in the right direction. It'll make it much easier to sew together, I promise, okay? Do you have any questions out there?
Yeah, do you iron the interfacing on before or after you cut the fabric?
I did both. So I'll be honest with you, I tried it both different ways. And so I cut one of them, I think the green, I cut as a 15-inch square, and then I fused the back of that, and then I cut that into a 10-inch square and the two pieces. So you can do that. I didn't show you how to do that. So basically, let me show you on here. So basically this is a 15-inch square if these pieces are all separate. So what I did is I took a big piece of green that was A, B, C, and D pieces, fused the back of that, and then cut those pieces out. Then I was able to use them in different ones. Then I also did some where I cut out all of these pieces and then I fused to the back of it. Honestly, preferably, I would iron it to the big 15-inch piece, then cut them out, just because it was easier than trying to match the interfacings up to the back. But I tend to interface a lot and then cut out. It's how I do facings and all of that. If you were with us last week when we did the little embrace top, that's totally how I do the facing too, is I put the interfacing on and then I cut it out. It makes it easier for me, but it really is personal preference. I'm a lot about personal preference, aren't I? Like, whatever you like, you do that. Okay. So one of the things when I was trying to put this the quilt together, trying to figure out what fabrics we should use and what I had and which colors would go together, I have a lot of Luxe Cuddle and I don't have as much Cuddle 3. And so I was trying to mix the two up. And I'll tell you, I didn't like it. So it's personal preference again, but I didn't like the way that this is flat and this is so big, and then it makes my seams really bulky and stand out. So I felt like mixing the flat cuddle, and then this is an embossed cuddle, which is a little bit higher nap, and then these two, this is, I want to say it's Galaxy, and then this one is the hide. And these I felt are so much higher that they just sort of didn't, I don't know, I didn't love it. But I thought it had potential because I like the way that it makes these seams sort of muddy. Because you can see on here, they're very precise. So with the cuddle, it's very precise seam. You see that seam edge the whole way. It's very nice. When you use the Luxe Cuddles, you get it sort of wobbly. But I thought we could use this to our advantage. So I sewed it up using all 3 Luxe Cuddles, which you could absolutely do, and I think that's beautiful. So I'm kind of excited about that potential, and I think that I might make one up in Luxe Cuddle and in regular Cuddle just to see what the difference is. Yeah, I just think that's really pretty. And then if we did the whole thing where we come along here in the stiletto and we fluff up those seams really nicely and pull out all the seam allowance, or not the seam allowance, but the naps out of the seam allowance, that sort of just muddies up that edge where it looks really nice. And we were talking about it last night, and I was thinking one that was a bunch of different purples would be so pretty in this. So if you've got Luxe Cuddles, this is a great way to use up some scraps. Because the only piece that's a big one really is this 10 by 10 square, which isn't even that big. It's just a piece of your 10-inch strip if you have a bunch of those. So this is a really great way of using it with the Luxe Cuddle. So I will be doing that too, okay? And then when I get these done, I will show them we'll probably post them somewhere on the Shannon Fabric stuff, but we'll also have them on that I Love Cuddle page. So if you haven't joined that yet, and thanks to everybody who joined us yesterday, we had 20 new people. I'm looking forward to you joining us there if you haven't come already. So and we had some blankets that were shown this morning by somebody who'd made, I think, 3 or 4 of them after watching the video. So yay, super exciting. Okay, any questions on that? City and state. City and state. He had to remind me, of course. So please leave your city and state. We didn't do a drawing yesterday because we had the big giveaway, and I have emailed a few people, but I have a lot more to go. So if you haven't heard from me, don't panic. I'm still emailing a lot of people today, okay? So we had the big giveaway yesterday where you want to go to the blog and you want to enter to win 2 yards of fabric. Okay. I think that puts you on our newsletter list, but Ellen can correct me if I'm wrong. If you aren't on it already, you need to be, because that's when you find out about all of our giveaways and the videos and all of that good stuff. So do that. And then today we're going to give away, I will put together a kit just like the one that I did here, maybe with some more fabrics, but with this puzzle print and with the dog print and the rainbow print and all that good stuff. Okay, so I'll put together a kit for you to match the blanket that I'm making, and we'll have a winner today. So leave your city and state in a comment. And thanks for telling me all about your favorite quilt shops yesterday. That was really fun because a few of them I had, I've been to, like a few of them I've met you guys there, which is super fun. So if that's the case, please, leave a comment and tell me what your favorite quilt shops are. I love hearing about them, and I've been to a lot of them, but it's fun to find new ones. So, okay, anything else? I'm trying to think. Oh, the giveaway too. I wanted to talk about that. Sorry, I have to make all these notes for myself. So the giveaway, the 2 yard giveaway that we did yesterday, if you sign up for it, if you win the 2 yards, we're going to be doing classes, and we're going to be doing live classes with me. So that'll be kind of fun. We're going to do some Zoom classes, and we're going to do those, I think 3 different projects is what we're going to do, like a pillowcase, a little blanket, and what was the other one? Oh, scarf. So we'll have all 3 of those classes via Zoom, and we'll divide you guys up into smaller classes, smaller as in not hundreds of people per class, and we'll learn how to work with Cuddle together. So that'll be kind of fun. It'll be like a little private class, but with 30 of your closest friends. Okay, so I think that was it, and then we can do this. There's one other thing I wanted to show you really quick on this. We had talked about this before, and because my sewing table likes to eat my supplies, as you may have noticed, I'll be like, where is that thing? I wasn't able to show you one time because I lost my silver Sharpie. So the silver Sharpie is really good for working with dark fabrics, especially when you're working with black, or like the purple I could probably, see, now I'm going to have to look for the black one. Here's the black one. The purple I could see the black on it okay, but black is really hard to see. But this you can see it is a lighter version. Let me see if I have, I'm going to pull out this black. Oh, sorry guys. Did you catch all that falling there? That was exciting. Okay, so here's the black. And if I do it with the black, I can't see it, but with the silver, I can. Okay, so that's maybe a better example. All right, so that's just a silver Sharpie. They unfortunately fade out fairly quickly. Just add that to the pile and clean that up later. But that silver Sharpie really does work for the black fabric. So if you have gotten one that has like a black backing and you're struggling with it, that's what you need to do, is just get a silver Sharpie. Okay, works totally fine. All right. So now we can get to our others. Okay, I think I took care of everything. All right, so yesterday I made up these strips of blocks. Okay, and I finished up my last one and put them all together. So in the pattern, it shows you 4 rows. I didn't have enough to make 4 rows that I was happy with, so I made 3, which you can do too. You can make as many as you want or as few as you want. Okay, and so what I did is I put 3 rows of 3 together. In the pattern, it'll tell you the layout. So this is this one it would be this row right here. Okay, so that's the way that I laid them out. So you can figure out which way they're supposed to go depending on the nap. Like I said, my nap is a little bit crazy, but that's the way you'll figure it out. So I have 3 rows that I'm going to do. So I did a little prep beforehand so that we could just put this together. Okay, so let me explain that. Oh, I'm just going to show them how to do this. Do that. Try to remember. We'll do it near the end. Okay, and I'll show you how to replace the blade for the Luxe Cuddle. Okay, so what I did prep-wise before you guys got here was that I cut out a piece of matting. I figured out the measurements for how wide it would be and how long each of these strips will be. So I'll tell you is that they were 13 and a half for the first strip, and then 13, 13, 13. We'll see if it works, okay? That's what I did. If it works out fine, we'll add it to the pattern when I do the finished pattern. But it's sort of an experiment to see if it would work. Okay, so what I did is I did the same thing that I do for when we're doing like the little strip quilts, because that's all we're gonna do is put it together as a strip quilt. So I've got my cuddle backing and I've got my batting that I drew the lines on, and mostly I did this so I can keep it straight because it gets really wonky when it's pieced together. And there are certain times that I want to be careful about it, and this is one of them. So I just used the 505 spray. So this is what I use to adhere it. Okay, so this is the OD 505 temporary spray adhesive. It works great. So if you have used spray adhesive before, basting spray, and you have hated it, I will suggest that you use this brand. It is my favorite. It doesn't stink. I can use it in the house. I use it in classrooms all the time, and it's totally fine. I really like this one. Okay, so that's what I used to do that this morning. And basically, this direction, I'll show you what I do. Okay, is that you're going to lay out your batting. I'm just going to pull a little bit of this off so we can redo it. I'll practice with you guys, basically, show you what I mean. If you haven't seen the other videos, this will be good information. Also, you can see it just pulls right off, so it's great in that way. Okay, so I'm going to lay this out. Normally I would have this big towel or sheet underneath it, but I'm not going to worry about it today. But that's all I use is just a sheet. And so when I do classes, that's the same thing we do. Then I wash that sheet, it all comes out, and it's totally fine. Okay, so on the package, this is a sticky can. On the package it says to get it out that you need to dry clean it, which isn't exactly true because I wash it and dry and it's totally fine. So just so you know, I totally wash it, dry it, it comes out. Okay, so what I do is I'm going to spray the back of, or I spray the batting, or you can spray the back of the fabric. A lot of times I spray the back of the fabric because the fabric is polyester, so this doesn't soak in. If you were using a cotton or a combo batting, like a cotton wool batting, this will soak into it, and we don't want that to happen. Okay, so I spray it on the back of the fabric so that it doesn't soak in. All right, and what we do, so come over here, I'm gonna use my scrap pattern as my scrap paper here. Okay, so I don't want to spray. If I spray this and I don't have the paper here, I'm likely to spray the right side of my fabric, and I don't want that to happen because it'll leave sticky gross marks. So I just put this paper there, okay, and that's all I'm going to do. Let that hang over a little. I'm just going to spray the back of this, okay. All right, and then all I do is I stick my hands under here and I push it up, and then you get to hit it. Okay, that's my favorite part in class is when we all get to walk around banging on the fabric. I always tell people, let it out, ladies. Just get to be angry with whatever. I'm going to spray this just a tiny bit because it's got some spray on it. Otherwise, from when I did it before. Okay, and the key really is smacking it. So what people want to do is they want to push it up and stretch it. We don't want to do that. We don't ever want to stretch the fabric, okay? And then if you push it out and then you don't actually like smack it down, it doesn't adhere very well. So actually like smacking it makes it sort of adhere to it much better, okay? Plus it's kind of fun. All right, any questions on that? They're good? Okay, whew. All right, so here is my middle piece, and we're going to use, scoot my machine down just a little, okay, just so I can get that flat. So this, I labeled mine because what I want to do is I want to start, usually we start in the middle, and today we're going to start in the middle because I only have 3 pieces, but if we were doing 4 pieces, I would still want to start in the middle, which would just be a section of it, okay? It tends to get skewed more if you start at one end and work to the other, so we try to start in the middle and go back, okay? Go one way or the other. All right, so here is my, when I laid it out, this would be the middle piece. So what I did is I drew lines on here so I could keep it straight, which you can choose to do or not do, okay, and it won't make any difference at all, okay? So that's what I did here, is I just drew the lines on with my Sharpie, okay? So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna spray it. Okay, and then I'm just going to tack this down. Okay. And I'm just going to get this where I want it to be. So I'm going to keep these lines. Now I'm just going to baste it a little bit at a time here, just like I would doing the big quilt. Okay, when I do the next section, I won't be able to be as careful because I'll have sewn this and then pulling it over. But what I'm going to do is take my time with this one, get it in place really nicely, and then from there on it will work better because it will have been adhered. Okay, I would normally spray this, but I don't want to spray toward my machine, so I'm not going to. Okay, and I'm going to give this just a little bit of tug just to get it nice and flat. Okay. Okay, so you can see I've got that down. I want to keep these seams as straight as possible. Oh, that's where I goobered. See, that's where I wasn't doing the little trick I did yesterday where I pinned it carefully. That's what happens. Okay, so once I've gotten these to where it's been sprayed, I'm going to pull it back again. Okay, spray a little bit more. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing and just kind of keep this pulled taut. So I'm not trying to stretch it at all. I'm just trying to keep it taut. Okay. Fold that seam allowance. But then I can go back underneath here. Try to keep us from getting messed up with the sound too much. Because then I can go back in here and I can move this. So if I decided I need to shove that up, I can actually, like you see, just lift it up, straighten it, put it back where I want it to be. Okay. So that's one of the nice things about the 505 is that it's pretty forgiving like that. Okay. Okay, so it looks like my side measurement wasn't quite perfect. I'm going over like a ½ inch, so that's all right. It's all a learning experience, right? Okay, so I can get these squares to tack down pretty nicely because of that basting spray. Okay. So I'm just going to get that pulled nice and straight. Now when we do our other rows, we'll be able to do the same thing in getting them tacked down. They just won't be quite as nice. Okay. All right. Okay, now I'll be honest with you guys. This part right here, this worries me just slightly. I'm going to have to be careful here because you can see this is off a bit. And I'm not sure exactly what happened, but you know, it happens even to the best of us. So I got a little bit of wobble here in my line. Okay, it matched here and doesn't match here. So something happened in how it was cut or how I sewed it or something. So when I sew this next strip on here, I'm going to need to make sure that I check and catch that. Okay, so when you're doing your rows, you always want to make sure that you caught it before you sew more. Okay. So I'm not going to take it out. I'm not going to redo anything. I'm just going to make sure I caught that in there. All right. So now my next strip goes on here. We'll see. Oh, that can't be my next strip because that looks terrible. We'll see. Maybe I got these in the wrong order, you guys. I don't know. We'll see. All right. Oh, I did have one area that the oranges were touching the orange. I remember that. I wasn't happy about it. That's why I was like, I need more colors. Okay. Okay. So what I'm going to do, let me see. What if I do put this one on here? Can I put it on there this way? See, this we're just going to play with it, guys, just for a second here. Okay, we're going to vote. Do we want this strip there? Or do we want that strip there? I kind of vote the first one. What do we got? First one?
Nobody's responding yet.
Okay.
A little delay.
It's okay.
We'll figure it out. See what we get.
Do you agree?
I'm okay with the first one too, actually.
This one?
Yeah. Oh, you mean that one? Yeah.
Or this one?
Yeah. Okay. Yes, that one.
Yeah.
Let's switch it.
Okay.
There we go.
Because I have to have it like this, right? What if I do it this? Oh no, if I do it this way, then I have patchwork or puzzle next to puzzle. We're just going to keep flipping around, guys, until we get it. See, this is what happened because it doesn't matter because all my naps are going in stupid directions. Yeah, and I can't do it that way because then those match up. Okay. Okay, we just keep flipping. Okay.
I actually like that way.
This way?
Yeah, even the oranges are touching.
Okay. Okay, we're going to do it this way then. Okay, I hope you all agree. All right, so then what I'm going to do, so this is the part that I could get a little finicky because I have joints here again. And I'm totally going to get finicky with you guys, okay? Because I've got seams that have to match up. So you remember the trick yesterday where I pinned it and then I sewed just those spots? I'm going to do that exact same thing today. I'm going to pin one and sew it. Then I'll come over and pin the other one and sew it, okay? And then I'll sew the whole thing across, all right? Just because that's how I am. Okay, we're going to see how it works on this one. This is what happens. You guys are experimenting with me. I hope you like it. So it's like my favorite part of sewing is trying to figure out like, oh, will it work if I do that? So I'm going to pin through all the layers, through all the seam allowances, the batting, and the backing, okay? And I'm just making sure that these seam allowances match. I'm going to roll those down. Okay, I'm going to pin it in place. We've talked about pins before, but these clover ones are my favorite. Okay, this the green one here, the white, the yellow, these are a little bit stiffer ones, and so they work really well for this. They don't bend quite as much when I'm going through all of those layers. Okay, so let's see if I can get this one pinned maybe at the same time. I'll just sew them separately. Okay. Okay, and all of these I did without any of the interfacing, so they're a little wonkier than the others. Okay? All right, are we ready?
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to come on over. Do you want this around the lamp? Okay. All right, so I've got the Bernina that I'm working with again today. I have my walking foot on there. I've got my Superior thread is what I'm using. Really like their thread too. It's 100% polyester. And a 9014 stretch needle from Schmetz is what we use. So those are the big things. I also have my stretch or my stitch length lengthened to a 3.0. Okay, so that it's a little bit longer than it normally would be, and that'll help it feed through. All right, and then I have played with my presser foot pressure just a little bit this morning. We'll see how it works. I may have to futz with it again because I've got so many layers here. So you can see, like, when you're working with the Cuddle, you need to keep it laid out as much as possible, keeping as much weight on your table as you can. Okay, it's big and it can get heavy, so we're really just going to try to be as cognizant of that as possible. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. There's so much Cuddle dust on me already today. All right. Okay, so I'm going to lighten up my presser foot pressure because I can feel it doesn't want to go through all of those. So that's this little knobby right here that I just lightened a little bit this direction. Okay, so that's how it works on the Bernina. Okay, all right, so I'm going to cut that thread. And I'm just going to lift this and then slide it through up to the next spot that I want to sew. We'll see how close those are, and we're going to hope for the best. Okay, and I'm sort of keeping an eye on that, excuse me, on the line that I drew there, because I want my 1/2 inch to be about from there. Okay, so you can see this doesn't want to feed it through as nicely as I want it to. So I'm going to push it just a little. I don't know where my stiletto is. I got to find that. Okay, so let's bring that here. Is my stiletto hiding? Yep, there it is. Okay, so now what I can do is I can bring that over. It's a little bit off, but it's not terrible. I can live with that. Oh, and the orange one actually turned out just fine. So happy with that. Okay, so now I can sew across that whole area and make sure that it matches evenly. So now I'm going to pin it. And I'm going to do the same double row of pinning like we would do if this were see, this is probably my trick that held it in place as I pinned down here and not just up here. Okay, so now I'm going to double pin just like as if I were doing a strip quilt. Okay, and basically my beginnings and ends are my intersection of the seams. All right, so I need to make sure that they match there, which they're adhered because I sewed it down. Okay. And then I'm going to have to pull this back so I can see both layers. So sometimes people don't really want to pull the fabric around to see what they're doing. Absolutely feel free. Okay. It likes to move on you and do funky things. So just remember you're the boss. Okay. All right, so I'm going to do my little double row, and I'm going to come back and do my second row. Okay, so if you haven't watched any of the videos before, if you're new, you're like, what the heck is she doing? If you watch any of the videos, this is what I call double pinning. I just do 2 rows, and it helps a lot with sewing Cuddle. Okay. All right. So now, just like I said, I just pull it back, make it be where I want it to be, and then I'm going to pin it into place. Okay, so that that edge is going along with that mark that I made. Okay, and you'll notice that when you're working with Cuddle, it'll curl sort of in various directions depending on how it's cut. Because it's a knit, it'll want to do different things depending on which side it's cut. Okay, whether it's the top, the bottom, the sides, they'll all behave slightly differently. So don't ever feel like you've done something wrong if it's curling, because really it just likes to curl. The only thing that you can do quote unquote wrong to make it curl more is just stretch it too much, and then it will absolutely curl on itself. So avoid stretching it. Okay. All right, I'm gonna come up and we'll do the last section. Okay, so this is the way that you can put together any of the quilts. On that little pattern I wrote up, I also said, because I thought this would be a good idea too, is that you could use it for the middle of a self-binding blanket. Because once you've got this done, if you wanted to, you could just put it, you could spray baste it onto batting and then use that in the middle, or you could not spray baste it to batting and use it in the middle of a self-binding blanket quilt or blanket, which I think would be really cute. So expect me to, be making those too. All right. Okay, so we got plenty of pins in there. No blood yet. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna put the pins over here so I can keep track of them, and I'm gonna sort of feed it around. So one of the things, like I was saying, is that it's heavy, so I really want to keep it so that it's not coming straight off the front of my machine. Even if you are not standing and sewing and you are sitting, you do not want to have it just sitting in your lap. Okay. It won't want to behave very nicely. Let's see if I can get that to feed through a little better. All right, so now I've got my stiletto, and I can keep that, and I can keep it all where I want it to be. Okay, except for that pin that I got stuck in there. All right, there we go. Okay, and I always keep, if you pop it up just a little so you can see back here, I always keep a hand back here is what I do. So I have, see if I can manipulate this well enough with cameras and all that good stuff. So what I do is I keep a hand up here with the stiletto, and I keep a hand in the back that kind of pulls it through. So it's not as much pulling it through as it is guiding it through. But you'll notice, like almost always, it kind of needs a little bit of help, and especially at this point when I've got the batting and the backing and everything on there. Okay, and I can feel mine isn't going through as nicely as I want, so I'm even going to up the stitch length just to get it to feed through easily. Okay, because now I'm sewing through 4 layers of Cuddle, which is a lot. Okay, and if you're doing this with Luxe Cuddle, you'll have to keep the same thing in check, not in check, but in mind, because it will definitely work through differently because of the nap of the fabric. Okay, so we just went over that area that I already sewed. And I'm going to take out some of these pins that are back there so that I can grab the fabric without stabbing myself too much. Okay, I'm going to pull this so it doesn't get caught. Okay, because it wants to sort of hold in on itself. I try really hard to keep, like I said, the weight off the front of the machine, because what happens is it ends up pulling this direction. That's how you break needles with this too, is that you are, it's pulling this direction and you're trying to get it to go that way. So as the fabric comes this way, it bends your needle, and then as it bends the needle, it comes down and hits the plate and breaks your needle. So we really want to keep it so it's not pulling this direction. Okay. So that's a really good tip to keep in mind, especially if you're doing any of the larger quilts, because they get really heavy. Okay, so make sure that you're keeping that weight on the table if at all possible. Okay, how's it going out there?
Everything's great. Judy would like to know if you have the feed dogs up and down.
The feed dogs are up. I wanted to work through, so I'm using everything that I can, including the feed dogs, the walking foot, the stiletto, the pins. Yeah, all of it. Okay, I'm gonna go over that seam that I sewed before. And now I'm gonna watch this edge over here, because this edge got a little small, and that's okay. But I'm gonna keep this as my 1/2 inch seam allowance and make sure that it's catching here. Okay, on that other seam, area, we aren't able to see where it got a little short, so I'm gonna have to wait for that until I flip it over and see if I caught it or not. Oh. Okay, and I'm trying to keep this little line over there as the edge for my seam allowance. Okay, if it goes off a little bit, it's fine, but we want to try to keep it at least fairly even. I don't think they can see how I should keep throwing the pins off and toward the magnet. If you have the one that I have there is the little one from Dritz, which is great, but the I have a Zirkle too, which is like a bigger one, and it's so good. If you have that, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The magnet is so strong, but like this one, I don't know, where's my pink? I'll have to find it.
Good.
But like you could just throw them that direction. It's great, and then it just lands on the pin cushion. Yeah, I use them a lot. That's why somebody noticed the other day, I think you have a few of them, and I was like, I think I have 5. Okay. So yeah, I really like magnet pin cushions. All right.
Talk a little bit about that stiletto. It keeps your fingers out of the machine, right?
It does. I have never sewn over my finger yet. I'm sure it's a rite of passage that I just haven't endured yet. But I feel like this has saved my finger a lot, because I don't have to get my finger so close to that needle, which is great because I don't want to sew over my finger. So this gives me a lot more control than my finger ever could, and it protects it. So I can stab this and move it around, and when I'm sewing it, I can, move things, and I can stab through all the layers. So this is different than some of the other stilettos. Like I have this one, which I like too, but this one doesn't stab through the layers. So I can't really move. I don't have as much control, whereas this one I can stab through all of it. Okay, so it's just a different way of using a stiletto, but this gives me a lot more control over things. So I like it a lot. It's from By Annie. So it was originally made for making her bags, which is, layers of thick fabric that are quilted. And so you need to have the control. And you need to be able to get the binding on those little edges that she does. So this works really well. It also works really well for cuddle, I found. All right, so if I flip this up, this was the area that had my really short seam allowance. Do you remember? See if I show you there? Remember it came down, but my 1/2 inch totally took care of it. So if I flip this over, it's totally caught. It's gonna be fine, okay? So I always like to give them a tug all the way across, make sure that it's caught, okay? Because there are definitely times when like your stitch might have gotten long, or you accidentally moved it, or it got off the other fabric and you have a little loose spot. You just want to go in there and fix it now. Okay, so now that I am here, I'm going to put this layer up. Okay, so this works just the way that we do with our regular strip quilts. Okay, so we're going to put a strip on, we're going to baste it, or we're going to sew it, and then we're going to baste it down, and then we're going to put our next strip on. Okay, and we're doing the same thing here. We just have 3 big strips is what we're doing. Okay, so I'm going to spray the back of this, and I'm going to spray fairly close so I don't overspray too much in my studio. Okay, you'll see there's not a whole lot of spray that I use. And the one thing I'm going to take care of to make right when I flip this over is that I want my seams to come straight up from that other one. Okay, so I'm going to try to make sure that these are going straight. All right, same way here. So I'm going to pull that, make sure that's going straight up. Okay, this in here, now I can get this to lay as flat as I can get it to lay. But at least these seams are going to go straight. All right, so because it's a knit fabric, you have a little bit of play with it that you wouldn't otherwise. Okay, we can make it do what we want it to do. Let me see. It looked a little fudgety, but I think it's just because I didn't sew it perfectly. Look at that. Okay. Okay, here's another one I didn't sew perfectly. All right. It's so funny because honestly, these like the naps going all the different ways, I'm so like, it's driving me crazy. But it's just a sample. It's a learning process. Every one of these, I learned something new. This one is, the nap is really, really important. Okay. So this is the funny part, and this is what I was learning when I was doing it the other day, is that no matter how carefully I sew, when you're sewing the stretchy to not stretchy, it stretches. Okay, so you can see along the top over here, if you do this, Hawk, if you come, this one, this square, all of the naps are running this direction. This one I did right. It's perfect, right? It's pretty darn square. This one got something on it. This one, the naps are going in different directions. Like, we don't know which way they're going. This one is going that way. Yeah, this one is going that way. This one is going this way. So we've got this way, this way, this way. This one did not end up anywhere near square. Okay, and the same thing happened with here, is it totally makes it off square because the knits are going all sorts of different ways. Okay. The great thing about Cuddle though is like this is going to get done. I'm going to trim this up so that it's square and then it'll work. It'll be fine, but it is going to make it harder for me to put it together than if I had done them all the right way. Okay, so when I said in the instructions, be careful of the nap, and we talked about it yesterday, it's really important to be careful of the nap. Okay, lessons learned. All right, so now I'm going to flip it around and we're going to do the other side. All right, exactly the same way. We'll see how that one works. Okay, so on this one, like I said, I did it with 4 rows. I marked out 4 rows so I could see how big it was. But I only have 3 rows to do. Okay. So now we'll get this one on here. Okay, and put it on this direction. I think that's right. Now we're just going to do the same thing. I'm going to make my seams match, sew those down, and then sew across the whole thing again. Okay. All right. So the important thing here is to remember, so I've got 3 seams here, just one of them needs to match, so I want to make sure that I'm matching the right one. I feel like it'd be really easy to get excited and get them off, get them like this where you don't realize like, oh wait, that's not matching down there. So make sure that you do it carefully. Get your seams to match. Okay, I'll grab my pins. Sorry. Okay, so I'm going to put it that way. And then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to find this one. Okay, and you can probably see that I've been like sort of trying to get my seam allowances to be open. It's not super important, it just makes it a little bit flatter. Okay, and I found that if I press those seam allowances open when I'm sewing them, it's easier. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna put a couple little pins in there and then we'll go sew those intersections and see how they work out. I feel like that one needs to move just a bit. Okay. And again, not perfectly even, and that is just normal for working with Cuddle. Okay, so when your seam allowances don't match, please don't ever feel bad about that. It happens all the time. It's just the joy of working with Cuddle. Okay, so I'm going to feed this under my machine. All of this is going to be over on the table. That is pretty cute though, isn't it? And I'm going to get this underneath the foot over here. Okay, so you can see I worked with the batting and the backing fabric first, so I got all of this underneath there first, and then I'll worry about the top. Trying to get all of it under there at one time is just really can be an exercise in frustration. Okay, so I'm going to put everything down. I'm going to take that pin out. Okay, I want to get that nice and straight in there before I sew that. Take that pin out so I don't sew it. Okay, I just want to tack down that little seam. Okay, now I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm going to do the same where I'm going to move the fabric over here where it's just on the batting and the backing, because that's a lot easier to manipulate than this over here. Okay, so this one got a little bit big, and I can see it goes past my black line, and I want to see my black line, so I just kind of have to eyeball it and figure out that I think my black line is about an eighth of an inch from that edge. Okay, so I'm going to get my foot under here. I'm going to do the same thing and sew right across here. Okay, and then we'll go check it out. See how it did. Break. Oh, I got caught. Okay. All right, so now if I flip these up, I can see it's pretty okay. I'm all right with that. I'm all right with that. Okay, so now I've got those two seams intersected. They're perfect as I need them to be, and I'm just going to pin the next section down. All right, we're going to do the same thing again. So in this, the double pinning thing is really important for things like this to keep them pretty straight. And like I said, the clover pins are really the best ones for it. I really encourage you, if you haven't tried it, to give it a shot. There are certain times when pinning differently, you'll see me do it, works better. But for the most part, I always say start here with the double pinning. And then you can experiment from there. But the double pinning will make it so much easier to sew with. So if you've struggled at all, it'll make a huge difference. So it's really just one row and then the other. And so I'm securing, oh gosh, do you remember, what did Gail call it? Subdividing. Subdividing is the word. I always want to say bifurcate. That's not really it, but it's like stuck in my head. But we want to subdivide from the end to the end, and then in between, and then we do that second row. Okay, so that's really important, and that's what I was doing here. Is I put the end in, and then this is already secured, so then I can go in between and then do the second row. I'll do the same thing here. Both of these ends are actually already done. Okay, so then I just need to get this nice and flat. I'm going to go in between here, so I would go in the middle, keep that where I want it to be, and then keep going from there, and then keep subdividing. Thanks, Gail. Okay, we're just going to get all of these pins in there, and we'll make it so that it stays in place while we're sewing. Okay, probably the biggest problem, I don't like that word, but the biggest problem people have with sewing with Cuddle is that it likes to move on them. It likes to move on me too. So you just figure out ways of dealing with it, and those pins are really kind of the best way, in my opinion. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing here. I've got the one end secured. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to get this end secured. Okay, I'm not going to worry about that this is a little shorter than that one. I'm just going to even them out as best as possible and hope that it works its way in. Okay. Because in the end, what happens is that it looks completely different from the other side, and nobody will ever see the back of it here because we're hiding it in the quilt. So if it isn't perfect, it's fine. Okay, all right. Now we're going to do the same thing. Okay, so we're going to come back over. I'm going to feed this through my machine, batting and backing first. Okay, get it sort of situated. Oops. And then get this under there. Okay, so one of the things that you can do if you can like sew on your kitchen table, or you have a nice big table to sew on, that works really well. The other thing that you can do is put like, and I've seen people do this when they taking pictures at home and they put their ironing board out. So if you have like a pop-up ironing board, because it'll keep it at a like a more even level with your table, rather than like your lap. So you don't want it falling down at all. So I thought the ironing board was clever. We're just going to work this around. So you can see, because it's on the table, it wants to sort of like curve around. So I'm just going to work with it a little bit at a time. Throw my pins at the... Oh, I missed it. Oh, no. Throw my pins at the magnet, but I can't throw too far. Okay, so I'm going to try to get this to come up under here. One of the perks of sewing slowly, too, is that you get to manipulate the fabric the entire time you're working on it. Okay, and we talked about it before, but sewing cuddle is definitely not a race. Woo. Okay, I'm going to try to get those seam allowances to go under as I come through here. And then I'm just trying to keep that top edge fairly even. So one of the things, if you've been to our Sew Together Tuesdays before, you've heard me talk about it. So Cuddle will like show things more, the Cuddle 3. So like we did that with the stuffed animal, and even with the block individually here, that we'll be able to see this seam. So we want it to stay fairly straight, okay? If you're doing things with Luxe Cuddle, it's kind of fun because it's so forgiving. You can have really crazy seams and it won't even matter. Shove that all where I want it to be. Try to keep it there while I'm sewing.
I now want us to have a pin cam.
A pin
cushion cam.
So it could just sit over there and watch the pins fly in. It's honestly, it's like one of the best inventions. If you've been sewing a long time, like, you know, things have changed dramatically, and it's so fascinating, things like that, like the pin cushion that's magnetic. You're like, that's the best idea ever. Okay, so I'm trying to find like a happy medium here. This green is under the foot and the red is just past it. So neither one of those is a 1/2 inch, just FYI. I'm just picking like, basically that's the middle. Trying to keep it straight. Okay, now we've gotten over, so red is a little bit more. Okay, the straight is the most important part because it's what we'll show. So I can see this starts to curve out here, the white does, and I'm not going to aim for that so much as I am just to try to get this from here to this being the side. And so it looks to me like this curves up more than here. So really it's just sort of keeping an eye. I want to get my needle from here to here where I just sewed it. That was my intersection of the seam. So I need to basically aim for that. Okay, this is when if you have one of those lasers on your computer, or on your computers though, aren't they? On your sewing machine, this would help too. It's because you just want to aim for that. Let's see if I can do it. I did it. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna try to keep this feeding through. Okay, I can see I've got a little extra bulk here, so I'm going to use my stiletto to try to keep that down and let it feed in. Okay, and so if I use the stiletto, the other thing about this one is it has some, it's been sandblasted, and so it has some grit on it. You can kind of see the grit shining on it. And that holds this fabric a little bit better, is that I can hold it down and it will sort of grip onto the fabric and not slide off of it. And it helps me feed the fabric underneath the foot. So it ends up not gathering, not pleating on me. So now I can see my black line. There's my 1/2 inch seam allowance. I didn't get too far off, that's good. Okay. You do not want to hit your needle with your stiletto though, so do be careful there. Okay, this is an incident of where we were talking about yesterday where you're sewing two different a stretchy to a non-stretchy. That's why this wants to pull over here. Okay, it's because those are two different directions. This is definitely one of those do as I say, not as I do lessons. We've all had them, right? If you've had kids, you've definitely done it. All right, but
It's
this
nice
is
to know you didn't sell yourself into a corner earlier.
Right. I'm doing okay. It'll still work. It's just, you know, not perfection. All right, so now I'll take all these little pins out. Okay. Oops. All right. So now make sure I got all the pins out. I will tell you it is not that difficult to sew your pins in. I have not done it myself, but I can vouch. I have seen a lot of women do it in class. Because basically what happens, I'll show you guys. Because sometimes it's not so hard, it's not so easy to see. Okay, if I've got the pin in here and I pull it up, this is what happens, and people will just think that the seam allowance is further down. It's not super obvious that there's a pin right here, so it gets sewn in. So when this gets basted down, it gets pushed up, the next one gets sewn on, and then all of a sudden we realize there's a pin that's sewn in here. Okay, so we want to make sure that that doesn't happen. So always check to make sure. The clover pins, the heads don't fall off very easily, so it's really difficult to get these guys out if you have sewn them in, and it definitely happens. Okay, so make sure you've gotten your pins. That's all. Okay. It's fun having taught in all these different places too, because like I've seen so many things happen that I wasn't even sure could happen. And then people just prove me wrong. They're like, no, you could do that. And I'm like, oh, all right, well, look at that mistake you can make. Okay. All right, so I just wanted to get my seam allowances open is what I'm trying to do. Get those as open as possible. Make sure that it's going to fit in here the way that I want it to. Okay, then I can pull this back and I'm going to baste along there. Like that. Okay, and remember, we're not trying to spray paint it. We're just trying to get it to be stuck down just a little. So I'm going to hold that seam that runs up the blanket, okay, the one that we sewed the intersection for. I'm going to make sure that it is going to be straight, and I'm going to plop that down first, and then I'll come over here and I'll make sure the same thing happens here. Okay.
People are really liking the colorway on this. Can you talk about that puzzle fabric for a second?
Yeah, the puzzle fabric is one that is we released it, I can't remember, is it February is Autism Awareness Month? And so it was for that. And so that's what this is. It is really cute. I think it is just such a fun, just child-friendly print. We had talked about a couple of weeks ago when I was asking everybody what we wanted to choose for the fabric, if we wanted to do a girl one, or we wanted to do a boy one, or we wanted to do a gender-neutral one. And gender-neutral to me often means like gray and yellow. That seems just so generic that it's fine. And then I decided that the bright colors were just so much more fun. So that I stuck with the bright. So we have the paw print is all in the rainbowy colors. This puzzle print is super great and in all of the rainbowy colors. And then we actually have the rainbow that I used, and then various Cuddle 3s. And this one is from a new one that we have. I needed a bright blue scrap, so I got that one. And this one is actually, it says Explore on it somewhere. So we chose a bunch of different ones. This is a digital, I think these might be digitals as well. Okay. So we have a whole bunch of digital prints. We're just releasing a bunch of new ones too. So yeah, this is super cute and available in stores now, I believe. Ellen can correct me. Okay, so I can see some little wrinkles in here. That's what I'm doing, is trying to pull these so I can get the wrinkles to come out. Okay. So if I can get those to press down now, when I sew it, it won't matter afterward because it's just going to pop up. But for now, I can get it to work. Okay, I wonder, I can't remember. I'm trying to think if I have the foot, or I have the middle foot. I think I might. Let me look really quick in my...
Oh, notions.
Yeah, my crazy pile of stuff. I think it actually might be somewhere else. So the foot that I have that I want to show you guys is the walking foot that I think is somewhere else. Because basically what you can do is when you're done here, I'm going to go around this whole edge. But what you can do after we're done is actually do stitch in the ditch. You know, all of these to adhere all of this down. So I'm just going to go around the edge right now. If you guys have any more questions, you can ask them. And then we're going to finish up with one more little thing. Okay, but I'm just going to basically stick this down. I don't want to serpentine. I'm trying to figure out which stitch do I want. Regular zigzag. There we go. I'm just basically basting these all around because I'm not going to get to finishing this super fast. So I'm going to stick this at a 5 and a 5. So this is what I do all of my bindings with, but I also... Okay, 5.1. It's also what I just like basically baste anything with. So I'm going to baste this down to the batting and backing so that I could then trim it. Okay, so now I've gotten it all spray basted down, but I want it to be actually stuck. Because given time, it will unadhere. I have found that it can last for actually quite a while, but I'm gonna wanna quilt all of this. So that's gonna be my thing, is I'm gonna find that foot so that I can quilt in between all of these, because I think that'll be really cute, and I wanna see how it'll work, okay? So we're gonna do that, and then I'll finish it up and I'll post it on our page, okay? So the other thing that I was talking about is once you get to this point, I can either bind it with regular, you know, just a luxe cuddle binding, which is super nice. I could make this bigger if I wanted to make it 4x4 or 3x4 or 6x8. You totally could. Make this however big you want it to be. It's going to be the exact same thing. So you could see my seam allowance my edge got bigger here. I'm actually just going to keep going as where it was so that I can trim it up and basically be straight. Okay, so this isn't right along the edge like the other was, and that's okay. But you can make it as big as you want, bind it however you want. In the little pattern, I included links to the video on how to bind with luxe, or how to do a strip quilt with it. There's also ones on doing the luxe binding, and there's also videos on doing a self-binding blanket, which I think would be super cute with this. And if you get one of those 2-yard cuts, we have one of them I think is in Cardinal. I think it's the Luxe Hide Cardinal, which is super pretty, and it's this bright, it's like a bright red. Yeah, it's beautiful.
If you didn't want to stitch in the ditch on the quilting, is there a recommended spacing that you minimum?
Yeah, so that is always based on your batting. So your batting will tell you how much it should be quilted. Usually it's like 6 to 8 inches. Some of them it'll be smaller than that. But look at the packaging for your batting and it'll tell you what the quilting needs are. Okay, that's really important to keep in mind because the fabric itself doesn't need to be quilted. It's just that the batting will need to be held in place. And so that's sort of what I want to do. I also want to see if it'll kind of make those blocks puff up a little bit. So we'll see. But yeah, it's all about the batting that you choose to use and what they suggest. Okay, so that's going to be on the packaging for your batting. And different brands require different amounts. All right, well, you guys don't need to watch me go all the way around. Are there more questions? Any others? Okay, good. Okay, I'm going to go a little bit more. If you want to go around the other side of the table, then I'll show them how to change the blade. So one more thing I wanted to show you, and then we can choose a winner if Ellen has sent me one. If not, Ellen, send me a winner. Okay, and I will. What was that?
I guess there's something over there.
Okay, and so I will send the winner for today's. I will send you a kit that is basically this plus a little bit more. We have a couple of dots that I really want to include that I couldn't find in the scrap bins. But there's some really cute little dots that we have, and we have some stripes and some chevrons, and we have a bunch of other little sort of generic shapes, I guess, that I'm going to include in it because I think it would be really fun to make this even more exciting. So we will do that. All right, so let me Just kidding. I'm just going to get to the end of the rainbow. To the end of the rainbow. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. I will finish that up and then I'll do some quilting. Okay? So what I wanted to show you, see if we can get this around, was how to change the blades on this little cutter. So if you've watched the videos before, you're very familiar with this little cutter because I really love it. Okay, this one actually has one more little one on there, but I'm going to show you how to change it anyway. Okay, this is one of my favorite tools, and it's really, really great for working with the luxe cuddle. So when I'm cutting luxe cuddle, this keeps the edge really nice and doesn't make it so messy. Okay, because luxe cuddle can be really messy. This is great for that. So basically, the way that it works is you're going to take the little end off. Sorry, I did that surreptitiously. Okay, I'm going to take this little end off. All right, make sure that your blade is all the way in. Okay, I'm going to take this out. Then this little guy is on here. Okay, that's your little blade that you're going to throw away. I've talked about it before about snapping those blades off, and I like to use this guy, so I'm going to pretend this is still on here very carefully because that is a sharp edge right there. Okay, I use my little hemostats. You can get these on here. There we go. Okay, that'll break it apart. All right, that's how I take each blade off. You can use your hemostats, especially if you're having a little bit of trouble with your hands and your what do you call it, like fine motor skills. The hemostats are really good because you can hold it and not have to worry about those sharp edges so much. Okay, so you could come in here and grab these if I can get it to. I'm gonna pull them out here. Come on. Oh, see, I'm gonna hurt myself more than I'm gonna do any good. I just want one to grab. Let's see if I can do it with a magnet. I bet that would work too, huh? Let's try. Oh, it goes through all of them. We don't want that. Okay. Keep trying. So they have a little bit of oil between them that slides, so I need to slide this out. But then if I want to hold it, I can grab that one, push these back in here, and try to be a little safer. Okay. So we're not going to cut ourselves. Okay. So these come in, I think it's a 10-pack. I can't read the label. I think it's a 10-pack that's in here. They're replaceable blades. So when you get it, I think they come with 3, and then there's a blade replacement. So basically the way this works is it's going to come back on here. Okay. And this is going to slide in. This is going to go back into it. Okay. This guy goes back on here. And we have a new fresh blade. All right, so now we got a new fresh blade. It's totally gonna cut beautifully. When it stops cutting, I'm gonna use this guy. I'm gonna come over here. I'm gonna snap it off, okay? Super duper easy, and it's a great way to keep the blades nice and, my hemostats are slightly magnetized there. Keep the blade nice and fresh. I really like that it's so easy to, one, replace them, but also just to snap them off. It cuts the luxe cuddle beautifully. So if you haven't seen that before, I've done it lots of times here in lots of videos. But this tool is really one of my favorites for that. So then we'll dispose of these in the little plastic things that I've got that I dispose of my rotary blades as well. All right, are there any other questions? Did we get a text yet from Ellen? Not yet.
No.
Okay, I'm going to give it a second, and then I'm just going to have to email the winner. Because that'll be fun. So yeah, next, I forgot what we were doing. I think next week, somebody might have to correct me, but I think next week we're going to go back and we're going to revisit the mask. We were talking about doing that. I'm pretty sure that's what we're doing next week is we're going to revisit that, the face mask that we made like a month ago or so, and I'm going to show you a couple little tricks on making it faster and easier. A lot of states are asking, a lot of companies and restaurants and stores and all that stuff are asking us to wear masks when we go into the stores. When we first did the tutorial for it, we were making them a lot for being able to make for yourself if you needed them, and then people were making them for hospitals and that sort of thing. And it's become something that we're going to have to make a lot more of to wear in our daily lives. And so we have partnered with a couple other fabric companies, and I'm going to show you a couple of ways of making them a little bit quicker, easier, and using elastic in them. So there'll be a quick and easy way to put them on, take them off, and maybe fit a little bit better. So we're going to talk about some different variations on that next week. Okay, so that's what we're going to do next Tuesday. Anything from Ellen?
Yes.
Oh, good.
There you go.
I hate calling her out in public, but you know, it's the only way I can do it. All right, thank you. She confirmed. Yes, the mask is next week. I just got, I can't reach it from here. I just got a bunch of batiks from Hoffman, and I'm pretty excited about being able to use those. So, so the winner this week is from Birch Run, Michigan. And her name is Liz Preville, or Preville. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. But Liz, you're the winner from Birch Run, Michigan. I will send you a kit, and I'll send it it'll come to you next week because we'll have to get all of the fabrics cut and everything like that to find them and get them cut. But I will send you enough fabric to make your own version of this that's 12 block quilt. That's the Tuscan Cuddle Quilt. Again, you can find the pattern on our blog. I will be redoing it completely later, but for right now you'll get the Sew Together Tuesday version of it on the blog. Don't forget to enter to win your 2-yard cut of Luxe Cuddle as part of our new Cuddle Cuts. You'll be part of the classes. Anything else we need to say? Join the I Love Cuddle group. Follow us on Pinterest and Instagram and YouTube and Facebook and all of those places. And yeah, and I think that's it. We'll see you next Tuesday when we have the mask one. And until then, happy sewing. Bye.